And now to details of these and more stories. We begin with the C.A.R, the United Nations Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Project, better known as the DDR, has begun in the Central African Republic C.A.R, as some 20 ex-seleka rebels have given up their arms. Also, around 560 fighters said to belong to the 14 rebel groups in the country have begun to lay down their weapons in order to reintegrate into civilian life or into the army. The weapons are being secured by a private company. They are being referenced and sheltered in a container, while the ex-fighters are enrolled in several awareness workshops for reintegration. The program, which is an integral part of post-conflict peace consolidation in the mandate of UN peacekeeping operations over the last 20 years, could see over 7,000 ex-rebels benefit from its courses, with the hope of reducing the violence that has plagued the Central African Republic in recent years.
It must be known that the Central African Republic is experiencing a resurgence of violence from the factions of the former Seleka claiming to defend the Muslim minority and the groups of self-defense anti-Balaka, mostly Christians. Armed groups are also fighting for the control of natural resources. In August, at least 13 people were killed in Bria, 450 kilometers northeast of Bangui, in new clashes between armed groups, ex-Seleka and anti-Balaka.
And now we're being joined over the phone by Hervé Essay, a member of the DDR section of the United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in the Central African Republic, also known as MINUSCA. The DDR pilot project began in the C.A.R last week. Thank you very much for joining us, Hervé. What are your first observations 7 days after the start of this program?
Observing overall a positive response from the armed groups involved in the pilot project. For the Bangui region, the retained interest in the order of 150 elements to disarm and demobilize belong to different armed groups, and two-thirds of this estimate was effectively disarmed and demobilized. You may find that these numbers are very low. We are talking about two-thirds of 150. That's about 100 people. I want to remind you that the DDR pilot project is a limited scale that only interests 560 elements from armed groups in the Central African Republic, which will follow the national DDR. At this stage, it is a test operation designed to create confidence among all stakeholders, armed groups, government and MINUSCA that supports the government, and demonstrate the feasibility and the mechanisms envisaged for the major national programs that are valid. That being said, if we have reached the two-thirds planned for the Bangui area, a third is missing, and this is mainly due to the fact that the candidates of certain armed entities do not meet the eligibility criteria for the project.
Et c'est principalement dû au fait que les candidats de certaines entités armées ne respectent pas
must be certified as belonging to one of the 14 armed groups, and he also has to hand over a weapon of war.
Et il faut qu'il remette une arme de guerre.
But are there guarantees that these demobilized militiamen will not take up arms again?
I want to give you a somewhat provocative answer by saying no. There's no guarantee at 100% in human affairs. Clearly, to the DDR, it concerns men. One cannot obtain guarantees at 100%. But it is without a doubt that the actors in the project are the forefront of which the national authorities supported by the MINUSCA will do everything to ensure that a return to old practices is not done.
pour être plus concret par rapport au
This
projet.
is to be more concrete in relation to the pilot project. Half of the people who are going to be demobilized will sooner or later integrate the armed forces of the Central African Republic. They are trained there with the assistance of the European Union Technical Mission, EUTM, and there they learn to be disciplined servants, loyal to the Central African states and its institutions. The other half of the demobilized has its vocation, that is, to join its communities of origin.
Well, we learned that many groups are taking part in the DDR project. A new movement known as the Rally of Republicans was also founded. And isn't this supposed to be bad news for the DDR project?
This new movement seems to, or also seemed to be, a kind of recomposition of some of the existing politicio-military movements. This is not from the spontaneous generation, out of anything at all, but very clearly through the leadership of this new movement, we see where they come from. With regard to the DDR pilot projects to which I recall, the armed groups voluntarily participate. We are working on the basis of the lists provided by the armed groups themselves. Unless an armed group calls into question its participation, I do not see too much risk. If that were to be the case anyway, the project will continue with the armed groups that continue to participate. Now, a reflection in relation to the DDR process in general is that it is also a political exercise. We should not forget it. So even in time of pressing, it will still have to leave some time at the time to create the political conditions required in the process of the DDR.